Welcome back to another episode of Two Bees in a Pod. This week, we do not have a new episode, but we are sharing our second most listened to episode, which is Cultural Crossroads, Relationship and Gender Dynamics in the Diaspora. This is our second most listened to episode, and it's also very interesting because, relationships are a topic that never go out of style. And also because we also share some of our very, very unhinged dating stories. We hope if you listened to this previously, you would listen to it again, maybe for a refresh. And if you joined us along the way and you've never listened to this episode, we hope you enjoy it and that you would listen and send us feedbacks. Our DMs are always open, or you could send us a message on Instagram or by email, or just any whichever way channel of communication you prefer. So yeah, thank you for listening as always. Don't forget to subscribe, follow us on all the platforms. Thank you and enjoy. I was not raised with gender norms. My father was actually my primary parent for some years growing up.
People prefer to date, marry, start families with people from the same culture, country, region, sometimes even down to the tribe.
You are listening to Two Bees in a Pod, and I am Lola.
And I am B. Lyonga, and this is a podcast about life as an immigrant in the U.S. from our points of view, discussing our takes on various topics.
Such as straddling cultures, fitting in, staying connected, learning and unlearning the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Today, our topic is cultural crossroads, relationships, and gender dynamics in the diaspora. So exactly what it sounds like, we're going to be discussing the experience of dating and, maintaining romantic relationships as an immigrant in the U.S. And as usual, we will be giving our points of view and we want to hear back from you, the listeners. But before we get into that, an icebreaker, which is kind of related. What is the most unhinged dating or relationship experience you've had?
I feel like my experience is not as unhinged as I would like it to be. I really want something wild, but I cannot seem to pull anything. But I would say that this was just very strange. Where many years ago, I think I'd gone out somewhere with some friends and somebody saw me and hounded my friend for darn near a week about getting my number. And when he got the number, I think we talked maybe on a Monday, and he had one of those jobs where he would travel on Monday, come back on Friday. So we're talking that week, and then on a Friday, he drives straight from the airport to come see me. It was that serious. And then, we start talking, and we're talking, we're getting to know each other. And then now I have the vocabulary to say he ghosted me. But at the time, this was early, late 2000s, early 2010-ish. And ghosting wasn't a thing that we didn't have, but he just disappeared. He just stopped calling, right? And then maybe a month or two later, he called me and goes, "Who is this?"
What?
And then he did that. He would do it every 3 months. He would call and after a while I said, "Aren't you tired of doing this? How old are you?" And so today, even when I run into him today, because the way my pettiness is set up, it does not allow me to smile at him "Nah, you're a fool." That's my only thing. "You're a fool, you're childish." What was the point of that? There was never any conversation as to why he disappeared. He just ghosted. And then we'll call and say, "Who is this?" Yeah.
Okay, but the fact that you run into him, so this is somebody you're kind of connected to in some circles?
I've ran into him with a particular circle because it's out of state. I was just on vacation there at the time, and he still lives there. So yes, he is definitely in a friend circle with a mutual friend. So I ran into him at said friends events, which is rare. Maybe one or two times. The last time I could tell he was staring at me, and I was just You're not getting it from me. Whatever you're looking for, I'm not giving you. Nope, not me. I'm not the
What a
one.
weirdo. So my own unhinged story. A man accused me of vandalizing his car. Okay, but like he did not even accuse me directly. Like that's how unhinged the story is. I'm sitting in my house one day, and this is at the beginning of COVID. And this is somebody that I had a very, very brief, it would not even classify as an entanglement. That's how brief it was, okay? And the thing has finished. We're on good terms, or so I think. So I think he texts me and he's like, "Did you come to my apartment?" And I'm like, "What?" And I'm confused, right? I'm wrapping up work. It's like towards the end of the workday. We're working from home, obviously, at that point. He's like, "Did you come to my apartment? The police are here." So I try to call him and he doesn't pick up. So I'm like, "Hey, can you tell me what's going on?" Then he just starts like bombarding me with texts like, "I know it was you. I know you were here. The police are here, blah, blah, blah. The only reason I'm not going to press charges is because you're Cameroonian." I'm calling this man to find out what the hell is going on. He has not said what he's accusing me of all of this time, just bombarding me to the, like verbally abusing me at this point. And I'm like, "What are you talking about? I did not come to your apartment. I don't know what you're accusing me of. At least tell me what you're accusing me of." And then finally, he's like, "Oh, yeah, the police are here and we have you on camera." So that's where I was like, okay, now I know that you are actually out of your damn mind. Because it's one thing to think, okay, and I'm imagining, right? Because again, he has not told me what he's accusing me of. But he said, did you come to my apartment? So I'm like, maybe somebody broke into his apartment, but why does he think it's me? But then when he said, "We have you on camera," then I knew that, okay, this man is a psychopath because obviously I did not go there. I'm not on any camera. So he's just bombarding me. At some point, I'm like, you know what? Let's meet at the police station. Let's go. I'll meet you there. Tell me what police station is closest to you. Let's go there and you tell me what you're accusing me of. Of course, he doesn't, keeps obfuscating and just, I'm like, okay, you're a psycho, stop talking to me. So the thing bothered me so much. The next day, I go to the police station. So I had his address, obviously, because, we were in a thing. So I looked up the police station that would be covering that precinct, and I went and I gave them the address. I said, "The resident of this address is accusing me of something. I don't know what they're accusing me of, but you need to tell me." When I tell you that police officer looked at me like I had two heads. He looked at me like I was a crazy lady, which of course I sounded crazy. And he was like, "Ma'am, I don't know what you're talking about." I'm like, "This is the address. You people were called to this address yesterday, apparently, for something." So he tries to get me to go away. And I'm like, no. And the reason I was insisting is because this particular man, apart from being a pathological liar, he gossips a lot. So I'm like, whatever it is he's, made up in his head that I've done, he's telling other people. So, I got to get to the bottom of this. So I bother the police officer at the desk until he looks it up. He's like, "Yes, we were called to this address." He calls the officer who went to the scene and, but he doesn't want to give me information because he's like, "Yeah, there's a report, but you are not named anywhere in the report. I can't be giving you, this is confidential information." I showed him the text. I said, "This is the owner of not the owner, the renter of the apartment. And they're accusing me of something." So finally, I bothered them until they, again, called the officer who responded, and she's like, "Oh, somebody vandalized the car." I'm like, "Okay, cool. He said that you saw me on video. Show me the motherfucking video." And they were like, "What are you talking about? We never reviewed any video. The leasing office was closed. We did not review any video. We just came." So this man sat and sent me, again, verbally abused me, sent me like a barrage of texts accusing me, and to the point of saying, "We have you on camera, but I'm not going to press charges because you're Cameroonian." Bilola, when I tell you that I've suffered.
I just have one question. Was he Cameroonian?
Bilola, why do you think I was so like, of course he's Cameroonian, and you know how people gossip in our community, and he's definitely going to tell people about, like, it bothered me so much. But yeah, the man is unhinged. And when we were doing, when we were talking, I never told anybody because, again, it was a very brief thing. I didn't want people in my business. But when this whole shit went down, I told some of my friends and people who knew him, and every single person was like, Enanga, I wish you had told me when this man started talking to you, because I would have told you to run the other way. They were not surprised by the story. They were like, this is very on brand. This is very on brand for this individual. I wish you had told me. I would have told you to run the other way.
I mean, there's levels to this being unhinged, but the thing about it, though, like, you're better than me, because mid-text message, I'd have blocked him.
So the only reason I thought about that, right? But then I was like, I'm going to sue him. So I didn't want to block him so that I could use the text messages as evidence. That's the only reason why I didn't block him. Because at one point, I was inquiring about attorneys. I was like, I'm going to sue this man for harassment and defamation. Like, it bothered me so much.
Wow. Ashia, I'm sorry. I don't think anybody uses the block button as much as I do. I'm extremely liberal with my use of the block button. And before we had the ability to block as we do now, I've called T-Mobile to block somebody's number.
I love that. I need to be on your level.
I am dedicated to block. It's just, I need a moment of peace. And you are infringing, so I have to cut off your access. But that's wild. No, that's wild. I told you my story just seemed very like mellow.
No, this is like the single most unhinged, like nothing that I've ever experienced in a friendship or dating relationship has ever come close to this. And you know what? Like, the most unhinged part is, to this day, that man keeps telling people that we dated. So after he has done this to me, he attempted an apology 1 year later. I told him, to fuck off with his fake apology. But he is still telling people to this day that we dated. Like, not even a couple months ago, last month, one of my friends posted me on her story, and he was there talking about, oh, I see somebody I know. Who do you know? Sir, call my name again and you'll hear from my attorneys, idiot.
Oh, the thing is, like I tell people, I don't claim men. You want to go outside, you'll be claiming me. That's your business. That's between you.
Using me for clout.
My friend asked me once, she's like, why haven't we met? I said, because there's nothing to know. I'm like, you people don't need to know anything about anybody. I said, even if we're in this house together, I joked. I said, yeah, we live in the same house, still a man. You cannot really just be claiming.
Hey, Lola, you too. You're married now. You're married with a child. You will not claim him.
Now, yeah, okay. But even in the early days, still,
Lupita, I don't blame you.
Lupita was claiming a man, and today she had to come and give us a long thesis from the Apple Notes app about deception and breakup. So please.
Oh no, they broke up.
Yeah.
See? Bruh. Anyway. Let's get into the meat of our episode. So again, we're talking about relationship dynamics, right, in the diaspora from an immigrant's point of view. And I wanted to start first with stereotypes, right? So we are both African women, so that's, what we can speak to, but I'm sure different immigrant communities have, stereotypes that are held, within their community. So the stereotype of the African woman immigrant in the US is hardworking, highly educated, traditional, quote unquote. Is that now? No. Stereotypes don't have to be true, but is that a stereotype?
I don't think so. Especially if you ask the men who like to go bring their wives back from back home because, their eyes are not open. I would not put traditional.
Well, but we're not comparing. So like in the context of the US, we're comparing to other women in the US, right? Yeah, if we're comparing to women at home, then you may say they are not traditional. But within the context of the US, would you say that African immigrant women are more traditional?
No, actually, they're not. I mean, we can get to it, but I think that women, in the way that traditional is viewed,
Mm-hmm.
immigrant women take up non-traditional roles where a lot of them might actually be like the breadwinner of the family.
But what about in the home? Even those women who are breadwinners, aren't they
Oh, in
the
the home,
primary?
yes, yes, yes. Still
Yeah,
primarily, yes. I would say
yeah,
that.
they're the
Yeah.
primary child care givers. They're the primary domestic
Labor.
workers,
Yeah.
right, in their home. So, but I don't know how far off that veers from other American women. It might not be, because other American women, even, when they work, even if they earn more, they still come home and are the primary domestic laborers in their home. So I don't know that African immigrant women veer too far off of that.
I wouldn't think so.
Speaking of stereotypes, right? And we'll go outside of the US now because something that I'm going to call a scourge that has come up, in the online community in the last, what would you say? Has it been over a year of the passport bros?
It's been right about. I maybe they've always existed because hey, 90 Day Fiance is a thing. Um, but passport bros, that
That
whole name,
label,
yes. I
it's
want to say
about a
about
year.
a year.
It's 2022, definitely, right?
Yes.
2022. I hadn't heard of it before that. So for people who are unfamiliar, and honestly, I'm jealous of you if you don't know what a passport bro is, but I'm going to read this directly from their website because yes, they do have a website.
Why do they have the website?
According to the official passportbros.com website, a passport bro is a term used to describe a specific mindset and lifestyle choice adopted by men who have decided to pursue relationships with foreign women from different cultural backgrounds, often in countries outside their own. Now, they go on and on about the reasons why, these men have decided to quote unquote adopt this mindset because Western women, I'm going to just pick some descriptions that they've put here on their side. Western women exhibit behaviors that are argumentative, confrontational, manipulative, and exhibit traits often associated with masculinity. So this is from their own website. This is why they go and seek foreign women in cultures outside of their own. And I really, really despise this stereotype that foreign women, and that includes, of course, women all over the world, but includes African women, right? That you have left America because the women are masculine, they're argumentative and confrontational. So you're going to go to a foreign country and find a woman who is not going to argue with you, is submissive, is not. Another thing that they say on their website is about being overly sexual. And to me, this is really insulting to women of the cultures that they're talking about, because clearly these are people who are not well traveled. Because if you think that foreign women, and that's a very broad term, but I'll speak, for example, if somebody was coming to tell me that, oh, I'm going to go to Cameroon and find a submissive wife who is not overly sexual, I will laugh in your face.
True, but see, I think it's just clicking now that passport bros is essentially the Western or American version of the team. I'm going to get a wife back home because they're saying it's two sides of the same coin in it, because that's the reason, right? They make jokes about, oh, your eyes have opened, you're going to challenge them, you're not just going to ride, where without thinking about it, the really big thing about bringing somebody a wife from back home is usually the power dynamic. You're bringing somebody away from their family into a strange culture, and you're their guiding light through that culture, so it's control.
Right.
It's nothing more than control.
It is about taking advantage of people who are seeking an opportunity because they may be in financial need. Because
yeah,
not everybody, I'll use Cameroon as an example, and they also go to South America and Central America. Yes, those countries are quote unquote poorer than the US, but not everybody in that country is poor. So they not only are they going, it's not like they're going to those countries and picking any woman. You're not going to come to Cameroon and pick a woman who is highly educated and wealthy. She's still not going to put up with your bullshit. So that's again why I despise that characterization that women in these developing countries, are submissive. They will not argue
It's
with
poverty.
you.
It's
But
poverty.
yeah, just say that you want to take advantage of people.
And I think that passport bros actually just ties to the immigrant situation also, because it's the same way where you have immigrant communities, you have people, men and women, peers, same age, same circle, but the men don't want to touch the women that are here because according to them, their eyes are open, they become too Americanized, they become too Western. So they want to go bring somebody usually a lot younger than them. And then I joke about it, but it's not funny. I say the ones who are focused, the ones who move with intention, they bring her here and it's like they hold you hostage by your uterus. In that, as soon as before you left Cameroon, you might not even get on the plane if you are not pregnant. You are not getting on the plane. They need you to come here shackled so that once you get here, you're pregnant, you're having that first baby, second, probably third. Once you're done having children, then it's like, oh, so what do you want to do? That's now when it's like, okay, you're thinking about, but imagine being in a new country and you're having children. Like the whole pregnancy and motherhood journey is a thing on its own. Then imagine doing how overwhelming it would be doing it in a completely new place. You don't have a network, you don't have a community, you don't have anybody. You're solely dependent on this one person. Like it's like a perfect storm, all the ideal conditions, just perfectly lined up for an abuser.
Agreed. So back to these stereotypes, right? And what you say that those of us who, are here, like our eyes are quote unquote open. But to me, I feel like we still uphold, when I listen to the conversations that are being had in our community, it's kind of disheartening because we are still upholding some very sexist and misogynistic, ideas still within our community, despite all of this, education and these accomplishments. We still have very pick-me ideals.
I can't explain it. I don't know what it is because I've seen situations where two people are employed. In the extreme version, I know of someone who worked part-time because the agreement was that there was going to be a fresh meal every day. That was the agreement with their partner. A grown woman, you are working part-time just so you can go cook food for another grown adult because somehow if you cook it on the weekend and they put it in the microwave during the week, it doesn't hit the same. Like, isn't it in Cameroon they told us that sleeping fufu tastes better? Like when you
sleeping arrow.
Imagine the kanda that has been in arrow for 1 week.
Not a week. Yeah, but again, to your point, like we are still very much upholding traditional gender roles, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to domestic work, when it comes to childcare, we still are. So what is the stereotype then of the African immigrant man in the US? And again, stereotypes don't have to be true, but what is that stereotype?
I think it depends on who you ask and which, I would say age. With like at what age? Because if you look at an immigrant, people immigrated as adults versus people immigrated younger, high school, college. I think that there are different stereotypes. Because I would say for the older immigrant man, one of the stereotypes would be they struggle to adapt to change. They're not flexible. It's a lot harder for older men to immigrate to this country than it is for women. I think I'm wrong or right, but I would say that that's one of the stereotypes I'm aware of.
So what about this stereotype of, you hear a lot of discourse these days about being providers. And again, going back to quote unquote being traditional. I don't know any, and again, I don't know every Cameroonian immigrant, but I don't know a household where one person is a stay-at-home parent full-time. Like that is the arrangement. It's not like they're not in school, they're not looking for work, Actually, now that I think about it, I know one. But it's something that's not common. It's not common, right?
Yes. I know a handful.
I despise that word, especially just with the proliferation of that word and the idea on social media, because it's something that is very unrealistic. And when I hear women, kind of saying that as an aspiration that they have for somebody, I'm like, first of all, it's unrealistic, right? If you look at just the income stats in the US, the men who can afford that, they are very few and far between. You're not going to find one. And then secondly, like, what is it that you're really asking for? To what we were saying about earlier, when somebody has that much financial control over you, that's prime situation for abuse. And when you hear the stories of women who were stay-at-home moms who have come out, of those marriages penniless, it should really tell you that that's really not a situation that you want to put yourself in as a man or a woman.
But it's interesting where this idea of provider comes from, in that we grew up in Cameroon, even in the houses where the father had a job. How many times have you heard or seen a family where it was the man who worked outside of the home, the woman was doing petty business, but it's those businesses that were keeping the family functioning?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that this idea of the man being the provider, like, even think about, even at least, I don't know about in the south, but I'll say in the northwest region of Cameroon, agriculture is something that is big. Like, women wake up and they go to the farm.
Yeah,
a lot of families, they subsist off of whatever comes from the farm. They take some of that, they eat at home, and the rest of it is sold. There is no real housewife
right.
in our society. We don't, like, there's no real housewife.
And to your point, right, I think it comes back to this idea, and I hear this being said a lot, which I think is true, is that work that women do is undervalued. It's not considered work. It's not considered equal to, look at childcare. Childcare is work, because if your wife, if one of the parents was not doing that work, somebody would have to do it, and you would be paying somebody to do it. Childcare is work. Cooking is work. Cleaning is work. And then to your point, these small petty businesses that women do, women who are not, traditionally employed, that is still work. Farm work is work. All of these things, taking care of elderly family members, that is work, right? But again, women's work has been undervalued for so long, so that even when women are doing these things, you still call them, oh, she doesn't work. She does work. She does work.
Because a housewife, homemaker, she wakes up early to get food ready for the family, sometimes even for their spouse. They're getting kids ready for school. They're taking them to school. There's laundry to be done. There's house cleaning to be done. There's, part of the laundry is ironing, putting that away. There's cooking. And in this country, you have the joy of being the chauffeur. If you have school-age kids, you pick them up from school. God bless your heart. If you have more than one, different activities, you're driving them to different activities. Then you bring them home. You have to feed them, homework. They go to bed. Rinse, repeat. There's no rest for you anywhere. I tell people that when I just had my own child and I was home with her 3 months or so, the first day I went back to work, I had a pep in my step. I was so excited to be back in the land of the living, because at that time with a newborn, it's like, I was like, if this is the preview, count me out. I cannot do. It's like you're waking up, you feed, you pump, you wash, you cook, you're doing, there's laundry, then you wake up in the night, you're feeding. It's just all this activity every day, nonstop, every day. So the first day back, my mom was there, left her, went to work. I was so excited to be there amongst other adults. And it's like jobs that women traditionally do. Cooking, for instance. When women cook in the household, I guess maybe it's just rice and stew, or stunning planty, or sese planty. It's not a big deal. Once a man enters the kitchen, he's a chef now.
Listen, as somebody who doesn't like to cook and is not good at cooking, let me tell you, cooking is work and should I value it. Listen, I definitely value it. So I agree with you. If rice and stew is not a small thing, please.
Cooking, and as somebody who does enjoy cooking more often than not, the idea of cooking for labor is one that I don't like. I like to get in the kitchen like, oh, I'm feeling like this today, and I'm doing it. Once it's because I have to, because people are relying on me to eat. There's no joy, there's no love, there's no joy. There's I don't want to do it. We've been existing off of Trader Joe's for a while now. I've been trying to will myself to get into the kitchen to like, I don't have it in me.
It's just such a chore. It's such
It
a
is.
chore. And then you gotta clean up after, please. I beg.
My father said you clean as you go.
Yeah, but because if I've cooked right, I cannot eat until I've cleaned
Everything, yes.
everything. And it's just too much.
No. Cooking is not, but how many women in the world have Michelin stars?
That's the thing. That's the ironic thing. And when you listen to these award-winning chefs, right, and they start, giving these sub stories, oh, I learned how to cook from my mom, being in the kitchen with her, all of this. But again, to your point, how many of those mothers are amongst those Michelin star award-winning chefs? How many women? But again, men always have these stories about their mothers, making the kitchen a safe space, them learning to cook from their moms. It's really ironic. But you brought up a good point of when we were asking about the stereotype of the African man, because you said that you think the older men are resistant, to change in general, right? But something that I've heard from conversations with even younger men is they don't think that they need to go to therapy, right? When I speak to my female peers, African women, immigrants from other cultures, the women, if they have access to mental health services, therapy, counseling, they are more often than not, they will take advantage of those. But I've heard multiple men, and again, these are younger men, say, what do I need to go to therapy for? No, the therapist is not going to tell me anything that I don't know. So even younger men, you still find that resistance. And I don't think that's unique to African immigrant men. I think that's something that is across the board in the US. This, resistance or this opposition to the idea of seeking out therapy or counseling.
Yeah. I just noticed that we have one adultery. African men are, flag-bearing champions of cheating.
Is it that I don't think it's that they cheat more. I think it's that it's normalized in our culture.
Yes, it is. I know someone who got divorced. I hope he doesn't listen to this. And if he does, I'm not identifying you. But he went through a divorce. And he said to me, small cheating. Does she know what my friends do?
So, I mean, it serves him right, but he's not wrong. He's not wrong because, again, even in our peer group, our age and younger, cheating is so normalized in couples. It's like, it's just, and I'm not saying that the women just fold their hands and not do anything, but they're not leaving. They're not leaving. They're not initiating divorces over adultery. They're not doing it.
I mean, there's so many things. I've heard people say everything from, well, you're the one in the house, where are you living? If you leave, somebody else is just going to come and take your place, and other such stories.
So now, I have heard that, but I've also heard if I leave him, I'll just get with another person who will do the same thing to me.
Yes.
And girlies, if you're listening, you can do better. You deserve better. And it's not about, pushing one out and bringing another one in. You have value by yourself.
Thank you.
Okay, like, please, if you're one of those women who thinks like that, dead that mindset.
When it comes to cheating, though, I just want to say that what a man can do, a woman can do to perfection. Do with that what you will.
Per.
That's that's all I have to say. And I would just say, and for good measure, I highly recommend The Secret Lives of Baba Segi's Wives.
Oh, I love that book.
Because
so we have talked about this before, but there is, and this is definitely not unique to African immigrants. I think it's across cultures. People prefer to date, marry, start families with people from the same culture, country, region, sometimes even down to the tribe. And in the diaspora in the US, for example, people go to great lengths to do that, right? Doing things like long distance dating because they prefer to date people from their own countries or cultures. A great example of this on TV is the Indian matchmaking. If you haven't seen that show, it's a good example of just how, invested people are in dating, not just from their country, but from particular regions within their country. And again, Asians do it, Africans do it. I don't know about, the Caribbean community, but I would imagine they do it. And it makes sense, right? Like you want to date somebody that you have more in common with, that, if you want to raise a family, for example, you believe that they will be on the same level. Yeah, their values will match yours. So, I mean, I get it.
I understand it. But then sometimes I tell people, don't be afraid to go outside of the box, because we've already crossed the Atlantic Ocean, come 10,000 miles away from home. My bigger issue with sometimes trying to stay in the community is people will contortion themselves to accept nonsense just because, my grandmother and his had 5 cousins removed, or they sold Gary in the market together. But he has 3 children or 3 different mothers.
But maybe it's coming back to what we're talking about, like cheating being acceptable, right? For the example that I gave, where the person said, if I divorce him, I'll just go and meet another one who'll do the same thing. Because to her, she is only thinking about people within her community. And within her community, she believes that all the men are that way.
Because you're not willing to give a chance to their difference. You're not willing to give a chance to another immigrant, a local, nothing. It's just, it has to be your own. And you shortchange yourself, I think.
I agree, right? When you limit yourself that way, you whether you realize it or not, you end up lowering your standards, because especially for us, Cameroon is a small country. And then if you are talking about wanting to date only people from certain regions, like the English-speaking region, you have made that pool a lot smaller for yourself, right? And this is something that you come across. This is one of the cons of, trying to date within your own community. And I think it is very, very highlighted for us Cameroonians, again, because we are a smaller country. You end up running into your exes at functions, at events. You probably end up dating people that your friends may have dated. It just becomes
you go to a wedding with your spouse where one of you is an ex to one of the people getting married.
I mean, and listen, we're all grown, right? That doesn't necessarily have to be a problem. But the point is that you put yourself in potentially awkward situations.
Yes, it's not a problem, but I think it's just awkward because, sometimes at these events, people are making connections. Nobody's doing anything, but I just think that the awkwardness for me is where I shy away from.
Okay.
You're and a lot of other people. And what is interesting is, like, it doesn't even start with our generation, even our parents' generation. If you hang around them long enough, and they get comfortable to talk, they dealt with the exact same, the community is so small. And so you end up in situations where it's like, that was my father's university girlfriend, and your friends now with their kids. And you guys, it's just, for somebody looking in, to quote one of my favorite people, it's like, you guys are so incestuous. if we sit in a room, if we sit in a room of 30, and especially like in the English speaking Cameroon community, and those who went to any of the major boarding schools. So if you went to like any of the major Catholic, Presbyterian, or Baptist schools, and there's 30 of us sitting, we're not even going to make it to three. Like, we're not going to make it to a third degree of separation. I don't think so.
Agreed. And another downside of dating, within your or trying to date within your community is what I brought up earlier at the top of the episode is gossip, right? Is
Yes.
gossip. You lose an element of privacy.
Yes.
Your business gets out there, and we all know the game of telephone is that what people might be saying happen might not even be might be very far from what actually happened. And I'm actually a little bit sick and tired of it in the Cameroonian community because no, I think we need to really like reevaluate the lengths that people go to. I mean, people have told me discussions that couples apparently had in their marriage counseling session. First of all, how do you know that? Why do you have that information? Why are you sharing it? Like it's a bit much. So you definitely lose that. That's something you have to contend with, right? When you are dating within your community as an immigrant.
Not even people lose out on relationships from the gossip angle, not because you let people get in your ear so much. You don't even give somebody a chance to show you because somebody had a bad experience. So the minute you call a name, and I'm guilty, I'm smart because I've done this, but I'm not sharing it as fair. I think that I want you to go in with all the facts. Like, this is what this person's experience was. So keep that in mind. But you have things where you're trying to just consider, and somebody's just in your ear, like, yap, 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 and your perception is skewed.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's that for me. I mean, that's a huge downside of, dating within the community. But maybe for immigrant groups where they have a bigger population, I don't imagine that Nigerians experience the same thing, for example, unless we're talking about, let's say, within a certain, even in Houston, I would really find it hard to imagine that they have that same problem just because there's so many of them. Population wise, you don't know as many people, you don't have as many connections.
It will be there, but in smaller in subsections, right?
Right.
It would be maybe those who went to U of H within a certain time, or those who went to UT or Texas A&M.
Right.
Or it would be if you went to UT and then we all go to this one church. And or like if you're in the Redeemed is a big, for those who don't know, Redeemed Church of God, Redeemed Christian Church of God. It's a Nigerian church, and they're pretty big. And in Houston, there's a lot of different Redeemed churches. So it's that same network where you might go to one Redeemed parish here, but somebody knows you who goes to a different one. So it will happen there, but on a smaller scale, because you have to get into these really small subsections versus us is big, small. It's like you're moving to Houston. Oh, my friend. And then and then like the first part is like, okay, my friend told me about you. You are moving to Houston. Done.
Yeah. Yep. So I think that there's a hierarchy of preference, right, when it comes to immigrants, at least from what I've observed, within the Cameroonian and wider African community. So people prefer to date people from their own country. And then some people are not open to other Africans. Some people are, but that's kind of the next level, right? They're open to other Africans. Then the next level would be
race.
It would be race. Maybe they would be open to Black people in other parts of the world, like the Caribbean. And then after that is, non-Black people. So I think there is a hierarchy of preference. Of course, it doesn't apply to everybody. And like we said, we can see why people would prefer to date within, their culture, their country. So some of the challenges of dating, let's use the most extreme, for example, right? Like a white American. would be there's obviously a cultural gap depending on how well traveled or not the person, even if they're well traveled. How many people have you met who have been to Cameroon? There's still things about our culture that you would have to, introduce.
Explain. And,
Mm-hmm.
like people popping in, family popping in, and it's like, no, like, why don't they get a hotel? And it's like, they're my family. Why would they get a hotel? Some of those things, accommodating everybody, cooking some of the foods.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody explained it to me as like, look, she was tired of living where she's always explaining. She doesn't want to have to come home and continue to have to explain every single thing, like why she took her wig off or why.
I get it, but to kind of give the other side, right? Over time, you're not going to be explaining as much,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So when even if you're cooking like a new food, you just have to say, if you had cooked eru before and this time you're cooking egusi, you're not going to reintroduce palm oil to the person, for example.
Yeah.
Right? You're not going to reintroduce janga or crayfish. So I definitely get that perspective. But if your partner is open, and I would hope they would be if they're dating you from another culture and willing to learn, then that learning curve is going to be less steep over time and there'll be less explaining to do. But that said, I definitely understand why people are just it's a complete deal breaker, like they won't even consider it. I get it.
And I think also being an immigrant, you're looking for things that are comforting. Mm-hmm. You're looking for things that remind you of home. And it could feel like, look, when I go out into the world, I'm struggling. Where do I fit in? Who am I? And you want to be home with somebody where you come home, you cook, you play music, and you just vibe to it. I mean, they can learn, right? My housemates now knows Hariti Konge and some of the other music that I listen to.
Right, but that was not a huge leap for you to have to make. There are neighbors.
Don't be saying like that because they are still calling Awido Makosa, some of them. So let's not make assumptions that everybody's
it's not a huge leap. So
it was not a huge leap for them, but I don't want to assume that for everybody on our western border, it would just be cool.
Right. So, but I want to consider this, right? Do you think that for African, and again, I'm going to just use African women because that's who we are, but it may apply to other immigrant women. If you are progressive, if you are feminist, if you're somebody who does not subscribe to the traditional gender roles that we talked about earlier, do you think that you are more open to date people outside of your culture? Because in general, the men, and again, even of a younger age group, are still subscribing to these, they still have these expectations of traditional gender roles within the home. So if you're a woman who is, not wanting that type of household, does that make you more open to dating people who are not of your culture or your country because they may be more progressive or open-minded?
In my very small sample space of my own life and people that I engage with, I haven't seen any difference that people, like even the most progressive of people, every now and again have hit me with, I only want a Cameroonian or I only want somebody from my culture. So
but is that an ideal, or are they saying they're
waiting for their unicorn?
Okay, keep waiting. Mommy, keep waiting. He's coming.
I remember having this conversation with somebody, and she was in the space where she wanted to meet somebody, but she was so adamant about she did not want a non like the person had to be Cameroonian. And it did eventually work out for her, which was great. I don't know. Sometimes I really feel like when marriage and relationships come on the table, common sense leaves the building.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I really think that if people look at marriage for what it is and what it has always been, like, you have to treat it like a business deal that you're making. Emotions are fleeting. Let's think about it.
I don't agree with that, but this is my view on romantic relationships, right? Is that we have put it on this pedestal, to your point, where we're willing to compromise our own values, bend over backwards, do all of these things. We need to treat romantic relationships the way that we treat our friendships, our family relationships, because when we deep it, those other relationships in general are more long lasting. They are deeper than romantic relationships. So the way, we need to bring it off of that pedestal. I wouldn't say treat it like a business deal, but don't put it above your friendships and your family relationships.
So when I say business, I'm talking about like legit the marriage aspect of it. And like you sign a contract. Because something that I think about is sometimes where you meet your spouse and you guys get married in 6 months, right? You're planning for your happily ever after. And then something happens. Years ago, my dad was at a wedding and they got married in May. And in July, the groom had an accident. He was paralyzed from the neck. He was probably quadriplegic. He was evacuated. And the woman tried for a few years, but she bounced after a while. And in that case where that's what I'm saying, like you have a contract where I don't know how long they're together, but just imagine that 6 months and all of a sudden the responsibility for your life is in this person where maybe they don't care about you because like I said, emotions are fleeting. They married a good-looking, sprightly person, and now they're in this condition. Are they willing to go and fight their hardest for you? Do you see what I'm saying? In a way that your family and your friends will do for you. And I'm just saying, like you're saying, like we put these romantic relationships, and when you go to court, the law puts them in front of your family because you see in movies sometimes and maybe in real life where you go to the hospital and they say they can only give the information to family.
That's your next of kin according to the law.
To the law, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, but I think that, I think that is a radical change that women in particular, because we're the ones who end up, suffering, or we're the ones who are disadvantaged from this. Again, this pedestal that we keep putting romantic relationships on. It's not saying that you should not aspire to have one, you should not value them, but I don't think they should be valued above, again, the other people in your life, the other relationships in your life. They just shouldn't. And the reason why I brought up that question, or I was asking you about, feminists, women looking outside of their culture for more progressive men, is because of things that I keep hearing from African immigrant men. This thing that they basically say, oh, they don't make them like they used to. They cite their grandmother's relationships, even their parents' relationships, and comparing their mothers and grandmothers to the women that they are either, dating, trying to date, or are married to. And there's this thing that I always say when we talk about relationships, particularly, again, this is just from my own observations in the Cameroonian community. The men are aspiring to have the kind of marriages that their fathers had, and the women have vowed to not have the marriages that their mothers had. But these two people keep trying to date each other, which makes no sense because y'all don't want the same things.
You know what is fascinating? When you find siblings who grew up in the same house, and they're sharing their experiences, like, is it not the same house that we grew up in? Because when women on the internet go, men are wicked, men are trash, men are scum, and they're like, but your father, your brother, and they're like, where do you think I learned? They said I had a first class seat, but then it feels almost like the mothers talk to their daughters. They try to talk to them and be like, these are the things I could have done better. Or I don't know. Or the women just see it and they know that this is not their life, right? Because women were all talking about, I want to gatekeep women things, but there are discussions that women have with their friends and their female relatives that they don't have with the men. And so maybe in a way, the women are talking to their daughters and their daughters are seeing, they see what they see and they're great. But a man will tell you how his mother suffered and did this and did his last and did that.
The way that men speak about their mothers suffering, it's a virtue. They speak about it as if it's a virtue. Oh, she sacrificed, she did this and that. And I keep saying that they are looking for that kind of virtue in their potential partners. And on the other side, the women are saying, it could never be me.
I just want to say, this is a perfect time for me to say, when I am concerned, nobody should ever play sweet mother. Ever. I am not here to suffer. I'm not here to suffer for anybody. It's where I'm concerned. Me and Nico Mbaga have a problem. Don't suffer. I am not suffering for anybody. I'm sorry. I didn't.
Listeners, if you're not familiar with that song, go to YouTube and look for Sweet Mother.
Yes. The lyrics go something like, sweet mother, I will never forget you for all the suffering you did for me, and count all the different ways of, the mother suffered and is very, very grateful. Please, suffering is not the story I want for my life. I have a problem. But like you say, I think they've romanticized the suffering.
Yep,
like somehow this suffering is just part of life and a thing that you go through. So why wouldn't you take it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So I think that that's the disconnect, right, between what the immigrant men are aspiring to and what the women are aspiring to. But I have to admit that despite what the women might be aspiring to not replicate those marriages, they're still entering into marriages that are unequal, especially in the context of this society where most of them are full-time workers, just like their spouses. But again, the majority of the domestic care, domestic labor is on the woman.
I think that a lot of it also has to, I don't know if it's like the way society, like the way we are socialized, in that you go into the marriage thinking that this is how it should be. And you just take on this burden. Something I always caution my friends about is don't be doing too much. Actually, I like to say you need to put the bar on the floor. You're not aiming for gold in this wife Olympic situation. So like you have to stay. If you don't like to cook, don't try to pretend that you like to cook. Because you get into a situation where you get married now and they're expecting you to cook, because that's what you showed on your audition reel. Like, I'm
audition reel.
Isn't that what it is? Because a lot of people are performing. They're performing so that they get chose. Even your champion feminist sometimes is also performing and has worn her clown makeup. So that
listen, but it's true though, because talking about the pick me parade, even in the most progressive societies in the world, everybody loves a pick me. They love a pick Misha. They love a pick Melita, a pick Malin, a pick me Lope. They love them. They love a pick me.
Don't do things that you are not going to be able to continue doing. I'm like, don't go out of the goodness of your heart going to do laundry, for instance. Because I said, here's the thing. Once you do that, once you start doing that, when you have 1, 2, 3 kids, and if things proceed as usual, you're going to be responsible for that labor. They're never going to stop and think like, there's somebody else, so let me fold my own laundry. Because you've always done it, don't care. It's just like, why didn't you do this? You've always done it. Why are you stopping now? So you have to get in there and just know that the things that you start doing, more often than not, you are going to continue doing. So anything that doesn't sit right with your spirit, don't start it. Have a conversation about it, but don't take it up and just think that because something changed, everybody's going to be aware of this change. You are the only person who's going to be seeing that change.
But to your point, when you're getting into a relationship, and I think it will tie into our proverb at the end, you have to know yourself and know your partner. If you guys are not on the same page, if you are saying that you're a feminist and you don't subscribe to traditional gender roles, and you think that you're going to get into a partnership or a relationship with a man who does, like, how's that going to work? And again, it's back to us putting romantic relationships on pedestals and, wanting one at all costs, to the point where we become delusional.
We need a little delulu in our life.
But I'm gonna go on a sidebar because men do this thing, and I don't know the psychology behind it, right? Because it has happened to me more than once. A man will call himself a traditional man. All of these things, they have these gender expectations, but then they go and pursue women who are outspoken feminists, or, they just know are not on the same page with them. And to me, there is some psychosis behind it that needs to be studied. Because why are you doing that?
It's not psychosis. For one, I do think that for some of them, they like the idea of you more than you.
Ooh.
They like the idea of, I want a strong woman. I wanted this. When strong woman now challenges them, problem.
I've seen this. Is it a tweet or something that says everybody likes a strong woman until she's actually strong? There's something along those lines of what you're saying.
Yeah, they like the idea of you. They say they want an outspoken woman. And or maybe they want her to fight their battles in public. But when she comes to, check them and their behavior at home, then it becomes a problem. I always tell people that I have such a big, like what you described, right? You saw a woman, she was one way, and she presented herself to you this way. It could be she liked revealing clothes. It could be she liked designer. She liked her designer outfits. She was buying them for herself. You come into her life and you want to call her materialistic. Sir, take your poverty and be going with it. If it's your poverty, it's your stinginess. Take and be going with it. She did not ask you.
No, you know what this reminds me of? He's not an immigrant, but Jonah Hill. He's a perfect example of what we're talking about, right? He slid into the DMs of a surfer. Not only did he slide into her DMs, he used a picture that she had posted on her surfboard with her bikini, slid into her DMs. They got into a relationship. And then this man started telling her not to post bikini pictures. Sir, what was she doing when you met her?
You got a woman's Instagram. She's traveling with her friends. She's staying in 5-star resorts. She's buying her bags. She's living her life, eating good food. Now you want to come and date her and take her. No, I'm not going to say. You want to come and take her to a secret. Let me just put it like that. Although, as an immigrant,
I love a good secret.
No, a secret is high class as an immigrant. But I'm just saying that. And then when she doesn't like it, you saw where she was going. And then you want to come and cut her to size. Like you just want to. I think for some of them, they like the idea of you. And some, they just want to break you. Like it's just, they're chasing you so they can break you.
Little do you know that the bitch cannot be broken. Okay.
It drives me so crazy. It drives me crazy because even when I have male friends who say, but I said, don't even bring that nonsense to me. When you saw her, what was she carrying? You saw her bag that she was carrying. It was not Zara.
Her titties were out. Her booty was out. Don't come and tell her to dress differently.
You want her not to wearing turtleneck because of you.
Please. The way you saw her, just have that expectation.
That's how she will be.
Yes. And
you need to gas her up. But you're supposed to come and learn her angles. So when you are taking her picture, you'll be like, no, stand here. Okay. I watched somebody do that. I mean, it was very, to me, it was like really kind where whenever he wants to take her picture, it's like, no, stand like this. Oh, no, the lights. It was like such attention. Like if she likes something and you like her, you make sure she gets what she likes. Simple.
Yes. But this goes for women also, right? If you see a man and he has a certain lifestyle and he's a certain way, know that that's the way he's. If you don't like him that way, please leave that man alone.
You cannot change him. He's not money. He's not a baby's diaper. You cannot change him.
You can't. I think to a certain extent, women are also kind of delulu on that level. Like you see somebody, he likes to do certain things, whether it's, going to the sequoia or popping bottles in the club or buying certain kinds of. So he lives a certain lifestyle. Please, people are not Build-A-Bear, okay? You ain't gonna come build a man. Just take him the way he is.
A friend told me many years ago, he said, men go into a relationship thinking the woman will stay the same. She won't. Women go into a relationship thinking they will change the man. They can't. Because you are out here with this man, he's cheating on you when you are dating. Cheating left, right, front, center. You think that because he gave you a ring, you'll just stop. It's light switch off. Cheating has finished. We are good.
But I wonder if men also think that once they put the ring on their finger, suddenly the urge to cheat is going to stop. I wonder if they really think that. I feel like some of them believe that though. That's why they refuse to go to therapy and better themselves, because they think that you can literally just make a decision, wake up in the morning and change your character. It doesn't work that way.
He told me that once he gets in a relationship, he'll stop. I said, do you think it's I said, sir, is it a switch?
Good
It's
luck.
a switch. You just off it like this. It's over. You will not throw it out here, not to just. I'm just like, yeah, But no, I think honestly, it's really, like I said, women, and I can blame society, I can blame individual women, but women do audition for the marriage Olympics. And unfortunately, you don't even sign up for this thing. You are recruited at birth. Because there's all this, you're nurturing. I had a conversation with somebody about dolls. And at the time, my offspring did not own any dolls. And I don't, like, if she asked for it, yes, but it's not something I'm going to foist upon her at that age. And I was told she was 2. And I was told that, but it should prepare her for motherhood. At 2, I always tell people who have first, like my immigrant friends with daughters who are like the oldest kids, like, please don't make her your assistant mother. That's not her position in life. Can she just be one of your children, not small mommy or assistant mommy? I don't know. But yeah, like, be true to yourself, right? I think it all comes down to be true to yourself. You have to know yourself. And that's another thing. I feel like people don't take the time to know themselves.
Agreed.
Like you're trying so hard to get chose. You don't even know who you are, which is why you're like tofu. Because for every relationship that you assume that person's personality. If you're dating a homebody, then you become a homebody. If you're dating a social manawa, then you want to be in the streets with them every day. Even you don't even know if you want to be in the streets or you want to be in the house, because you've never sat with yourself and gotten to know yourself. But that's also that Olympics thing, because you go to school, don't talk to boys, and then you graduate, so when are you getting married, And so you spend your 20s trying to avoid the marriage brigade. People are trying to insist that you have to get married. I tell people, if you survive your 20s without getting married, like you didn't succumb to pressure, because I don't think people should marry before 30. You don't know most people, you don't know who you are. You're still wish-washing, going with the wind. I think that at age 30, for the most part, you've come into your own. You have certain values. Are you going to evolve? Yes. But there are certain core values that you probably hold on to for the rest of your life.
Right. Yeah, I get it. And again, it's back to the pedestal, right? If you bring that romantic relationship down from the pedestal, then you don't feel that pressure to be shape-shifting. You will get to know yourself. But I want to briefly touch back on the domestic labor, because this study, when I first learned about it, it blew my mind. I told you about it earlier and you were not mind blown. So maybe it's just me, but a 2018 study that was published in the journal Demography. I cannot say this word. Demography.
Demographic. What?
Demography. Jesus is Lord.
Is it in English or French?
It's English. I don't know why I can't say it. But anyway, a 2018 study was published in that journal that I was trying to say. And it found that single mothers have more sleep, leisure time, and do less housework than married mothers. And it shocked me when I heard it, because you are in the house with an adult raising children. You would think that if somebody else is raising children by themselves without another adult in the house, they would be doing more housework. But you are doing more housework, even though you have an able-bodied adult in the house with you. The study went further, right? So they compared the married women, so women who are living with their male spouse, to single mothers, but who had another adult relative in the house with them, like their parent, an aunt, an uncle, so another, non-spouse adult. And when they compared the two, again, the married women were doing more housework. So the suggestion is that it's the presence of the husband.
Did they really count the uncle? Because I'm not.
I don't know if they counted the uncle. They just said another adult relative who is not a spouse, right? I don't know
I
if they
really want to say that it will be a sister or a grandma or a mother.
in most times it is. In most cases it is a female relative.
I just want to think it's a female relative. But I told you that I see it. And as you're talking, I was thinking about it in terms of a group trip. Just think about a solo trip and a group trip. We hear all the horror stories of like a group trip. You're working with somebody else's schedule. You have to wait on them. Where when it's you, especially if you're a single mother and whoever your other adult is, they know that they're there to help you. They're there to facilitate your life.
Mm-hmm.
You're planning things and you're driving the boats. You're steering the ship. You know exactly how things are happening. Where far too often, like they're good group trips where everybody understands and they're trying to ease, making sure that we all have a good time. But when you have selfish people, they're wasting time. There's the one person who is always late, so you're always late. Where if it's just you, it's like I said, the time we're living at this time, there's no debate about it.
I'm imagining like, okay, let's just take a household task, laundry, right?
Mm-hmm.
The single woman is doing her laundry and her children's laundry. The married woman is doing her laundry, her children's laundry, and her spouse's laundry. The single woman is doing dishes for her and her children. The married woman is still doing the dishes for her, her children, and her spouse who is not doing dishes.
I want to caveat to say the single woman, knowing that is just has probably made it more efficient where those children started washing dishes at age 3. I'm not even being funny. She's put in place systems where everybody has their place in the household, mm-hmm. and it just runs more efficiently.
But why? But why is the presence of another adult making your household more inefficient? Why is the presence of another adult making you do more work? That is counterintuitive to me.
It's like the thing, as we say, labor. When we're doing gender roles, they'll say, a man takes care of the house. Like if it's not handy, there's a guy who comes and cuts the lawn, right? There's somebody who does the lawn for them. You are cooking and cleaning. And then this same person would tell you that they don't want outside food. Your food tastes best. Or, why do you have to pay somebody to clean? It becomes, certain levels of that. But again, I think that it all comes to setting expectations and boundaries when mm-hmm. you're going into it. Because this, how people were raised, what they have seen, mm-hmm. is that the woman takes care of the house. And the weird thing is, especially in American society, because like we said, in our Cameroonian society, what we've grown up with is like, even when mothers were in the home, they were always doing something. I feel like in this American society is actually where you have mothers who were just running the house and there's no side hustle. And so that's where you see even more of they're just there. You're cleaning and you're, doing all of the household chores with no assistance. Your partner goes to work and comes back and it's like, I'm so tired because I went to work.
Okay. But again, the households where that is happening are few and far between. In most households, both people are going to work and coming back.
They don't.
Yeah.
Just for your rights before you enter. That's all I can say. You have to start. You have to do these things before you get in there, not after. Some can change, but they said be proactive, not reactive.
Right. Yeah, it's just, I mean, it's fascinating to me and not in a good way, right? that study, again, it blows my mind every time I look at it, because it should be a partnership. That should not be like an extra child that you're having to look after.
You have not gone to bridal showers where older women are telling that your husband is your baby.
Okay, we need to have a good sidebar on this, because older women, not all
Toxic.
of them, not all of them, many of them are gatekeepers of these patriarchal, stereotypical gender roles. And to your point, not bridal shower, baby showers where they invite, either the mother of the expectant mother or an older female relative, and you just listen to what they're saying. And I'm like, y'all just want us to be as miserable as you were. That's the only conclusion that I can draw, because
Yes, now.
I went to I went
Misery
to
loves misery loves company.
that's it. I went to a baby shower and this woman got on the mic and was going on and on about how women of these days are ordering Uber Eats and DoorDash and nobody wants to cook anymore. I said, Auntie, is it your money that they're using to buy the Uber Eats and DoorDash?
Like every now and again, I say things. There are things in this house that will break, and I'll just like, hey, and that thing is broken. And I laughed. Lately, I've been laughing at myself because I said, like, look, if you're in this house, it will never occur to me to fix it. But then there have been times where, like, okay, he's traveled or something. I got to bring out the power tools. And last week I was in here, Bill the builder. I was drilling in cabinets. Which one's entitled? I fixed the shower. I had to go on YouTube to figure out how to fix it because the first 2 times it broke, I was like, hey, the shower thing fell again. Well, Sunday morning it was just me, myself, and I. So I went on YouTube, 30 seconds. I fixed it, And I laughed at the ridiculousness of the fact that it never occurred to me to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But I would take solace in the fact that I can recognize like, I can do this now. Like when need be, I can do that. But I remember somebody telling me that she would never take the trash out as long as there's a man in the house. So you are going to sit with smelling trash just because I was not raised with gender norms. My father was actually my primary parent for some years growing up. And so I thought that was like, when you grow up with something and it's just like, that's how it is. Mm-hmm. I did not think it was different until I got to secondary school. And they told me every story. I was like, well, my father. But that's the way that I was raised. And for context, my father is the first boy in a huge family with a lot of girls, which means Mans didn't really lift it. I don't think that he lifted his finger to do much growing up because he had a lot of sisters.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I tell people, I'm like, that's why I believe that you can change.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
Like, if he could do it, and it was stopping you. But people
that to be honest, like that is one of the most attractive qualities for me in people who can change. Like that's one thing that I really loved about my dad as he got older. He became a lot more emotionally, verbally expressive.
Yeah.
So that's one thing now, like when I see, men of around our age group and, you don't know how to like express your emotions and you're not making an effort to be more emotionally intelligent. Like, nah, if my old Bakuri Papa could do it, I'm not giving anybody else a pass. You know what I mean? So I just want to add a note that obviously this conversation has been centered around heteronormative, relationships, heterosexual relationships. It's not our lane to discuss, LGBTQ dynamics, but it's definitely an important topic that we will talk about on this podcast when we have a guest, who can, speak to that. Yeah, who has the range and who can speak to that for us. So we definitely want to acknowledge that the girlies, the bros, and the non-binary hoes, we know that everybody, there are different types of relationships out there, but that's not our lane to discuss. We would like the listeners to write in and tell us your most unhinged dating or relationship experience. And I just want to reiterate that if we repeat your stories on the pod, we keep you anonymous every time, right? So don't have that fear of writing in. You will be anonymous every single time, like regardless of the topic that's being discussed. So please write in and tell us your unhinged dating or relationship experience. I really want to see if anybody can top mine. That's why
Me too.
I
Me
really
too.
want to see if anybody has a more unhinged experience than the one I told.
I'm very curious to see that because mine just seems very like
That
basic.
was weird though. It was very, very weird. That was unhinged.
My friend was messing with somebody who was in a relationship.
Okay.
And so we all went out the night before, and my friend went home with this girl. And in the morning, my friend calls, like very like animated, like, where are you? I need you to come pick me up right now. This pre-Uber. And I'm like, what's going on? He's like, just come right now. We get there and he's standing off to the side. What happened? He was with this girl. He spent the night there. Her boyfriend called that he was going to pick her up for them to
Yes.
go to church.
Yeah. Oh, church. Oh, girl, you a church girl. Ooh. See, you know what I love? I love me a slutty church girl. It's my favorite thing.
What in the world? And so yeah, the boyfriend was like real close. So he's standing like off in the parking lot. Like he was no longer even in the house. And I'm just like, why would you put yourself in such a situation? But serious, I love it for you, man. I love it for you because you were hoeing last night and you about to be on somebody's stage, doing testimony in the morning. And I think it's just balance. Thank you guys for listening. And until next time, we're going to leave you with this proverb that goes, know yourself, no because na advice, which literally means knowing yourself is not an insult, it's a piece of advice. But more generally, it means having an idea of it's always good to know your boundaries, your limits, and just knowing who you are. It helps you in the short run not to make, long-term mistakes, because knowing yourself is not a bad thing, basically, I think. What do you think?
There you go. I agree. Know yourself, no because.
No word of advice. So if
Amen.
you cannot deal with something, please don't try to persevere.
Don't. People are not customizable. What you see is what you get.
You can change money, you can change diapers, you cannot change people.
And that's on.
Period.
Period.